Good morning, LinkedIn friends, HubSpot Nation. I got a special show for you today, something a little different instead of the usual format. I guess I don't even know if there is a usual format, but we are doing something new that we haven't done before. I'm pretty excited about it. Launching something that has been brewing in the Value First Collective for a while now. Uh, Here with Casey Hawkins. How you doing, Casey?
Good morning, Chris. A little later than usual that we're talking, if absolutely nothing else. That's changing the normal morning format.
Yes, it's a little weird knowing that updates have happened and that we're not covering them or we haven't covered them yet. But we're sticking to our guns, taking the week off of that at least, like a week of rest related specifically to HubSpot. And we'll have fun next Monday when anybody who is not resting uh, will have shipped some stuff and we'll be able to share those updates. Hopefully they go easy on us.
Some of us are trying to rest.
Yes. Others are trying to help people do lead scoring better, I guess. Is that what we're up to here?
That is what we're up to here. I just got a LinkedIn message this morning where someone asked me when someone said they were trying to find when I first started covering lead scoring in my feed, and they couldn't figure it out. And I too couldn't figure it out because I've been talking about lead scoring for so long. But I kind of ramped up early this year, January, February-ish, because that is when HubSpot announced that they were sunsetting their score properties in lieu of the new lead scoring app and health scoring for customer support as well. And that sunset is happening on August 31st of 2025 of this year. So we are officially 2 months, less than 2 months, depending on how you want to count it, away from that sunset.
More important than I'd like it to be, if I'm being honest. But consider this my olive branch and how much value first we try to embody that. I know a lot of people are out there with this issue. Lead scoring can work. It's just rare that it does work. The bottom line up front for me is if you're going to do lead scoring, let's not suck at it. How about that? Like, how about we actually take all of the effort that we put into that and creating numbers and creating prioritization of all these contacts that are coming in and just get better, right? Can we do
Yeah,
that?
I think we can. I think one thing that the old scoring properties did not do well is they were scoring properties and they were based on other properties. So we were kind of forced to rely on whatever data we had in HubSpot, and how reliable that data is always going to be always going to be a question mark there. But what I really like about the new scoring tools is there's a much heavier emphasis on engagement and what the people are doing, not just what data we have on the individuals. And yes, who the people are is important. I do HubSpot consulting. My father-in-law owns a printing company that he has one client. He does not sell to other people. He has one single client. He's never gonna hire me for HubSpot consulting. But so there is a factor here in we do care about who the person is. But more than that, We care about how ready that person is to buy, how much they already know about us, how familiar they are with our brand, and things like that. And the new scoring tools put that at the forefront in a way that previously we were kind of backdooring our way to figuring those out by using properties. Now it is more natural and built straight in to the tools.
So what have you learned from all the content, that you've done? I imagine you learned some stuff yourself about how the new tools work, but also like feedback. Obviously, this is an issue that resonates with a lot of people, but I'm curious what you've heard.
So I think people, really myself included, when the new scoring tools came out, we said, okay, we have these other scores, let's rebuild them in the new scoring tool. And that pretty quickly does not make sense for a lot of reasons. One, they're built differently. It's kind of hard to rebuild your old score in the new tool. But then that is what pretty immediately made me realize why. Why am I trying to rebuild these old scores that the sales team complains about, that the marketing team complains about? Like, why am I rebuilding something that's already, I know isn't working well, into the new tool and trying to almost fit a square peg into a circle hole? And that's when I started thinking, like, okay, the new tool is designed with engagement at the forefront. So why don't we start building our scores with engagement at the forefront as well?
Makes sense. So how long I imagine so you've done some time educating and now we're going into, this mastermind mode.
Mm-hmm.
How long has this kind of this how long has this been in your head as far as something that you think will help people take
So
this last step?
I started covering the new tool specifically in like February. And if you look at some of that early content is actually rebuilding old scores in the new tool. But fairly quickly by March, April, and the more people I talk to, the more I realized like we shouldn't just be rebuilding. We should be building better. And that's when I started connecting with others and kind of building this masterminds almost as a LinkedIn Live. But obviously that kind of has holes in that there's only so much collaboration we can do at that point. And that's when I wanted to start getting people together in a closer knit group so that we can kind of talk about these things, because it's easy for me to say, hey, you should build your score using these 3 pillars. Look at the contact fit, company fit, and engagement. But every business is different. And so how those actually get implemented is going to be so different. And that's why it seemed more important to have a place to connect on those things rather than me just speaking in generalness.
So what is that? Let's go over what that looks like if somebody wants to sign up.
So the main components of the mastermind group, one is live weekly sessions. So those, we have topics each week that go into what the important components are in scores and considering how to actually build those out for your business. Then we have 2-hour working sessions where we'll actually be getting together, accountability sessions, working sessions, and actually building the scores out. These are taking some of those concepts and actually building them, rather so that you're not just talking about the things that you need to build, but there's actually accountability into building them out for your teams. Um, Also preparing some resources, things like checklists, things like scorecards, and even templates for how to use the scores more effectively with your sales handoff. What do hot, medium, cold leads look like in these new scores and things like that. And then one of the most important things is going to be the peer review and feedback. When we're in these working sessions, when we're in these live sessions, opportunities to ask questions, not only to me, but to others, and kind of connect on where you're having issues. I know one of the issues I had with the new scoring tool pretty quickly was when it initially launched, there was no list criteria. That's changed now. But that was immediately something I had to start kind of figuring out and working around. And so having a community to kind of figure out those niche edge cases with you, and also just as a little bit of a sanity check.
Yeah, always helpful when there's other people also keeping up with HubSpot in all the ways so that, people can chime in and say, oh, this is available. Maybe we can do something different here.
Yeah.
So we've got obviously a number of topics that you can learn. Why did you select kind of these people as far as like good fits for this mastermind group?
I think the group is really designed for anyone that's trying to build a smarter score. People who are reaching not just to rebuild their current scores, but people who are thinking about like, how can these scores be more effective? And those people are going to bring not only value to the others in the group, but they're also going to get the most value out of the group. Because if you want to just score based on job titles, and send your sales team every CEO that your team downloads from Zoom info, that's fine. But you probably don't need a more robust system that can be built fairly straightforward. But people who want to look at scores and make them better, improve the sales to marketing handoff process, improve the relationships between sales and marketing teams. I think those are the people that are going to find value in this new system. And also, they're going to bring good interest and perspectives to the conversations as well.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be super important for this group, consultants and agencies. I think it's always interesting that it can be a gap in understanding like who the audience is when we're speaking to the ecosystem, and that this is the group that really has the most leverage over whether or not these people get better, because we need everybody in the ecosystem to start challenging the status quo assumptions around lead scoring. So I hope to see definitely this group represented, because they have so much reach in terms of actually connecting with the people building scores. um, and this group is also often tasked with rebuilding scores and just making sure the portal is working, quote unquote.
I think those groups too, like so often they're the people they get into a new portal, and that's one of the areas that gets audited when a new consultant or agency comes into a portal. And so and unfortunately, that's often the only times that these scores get updated. You bring in a new consultant, a new agency, the scoring's just been set and forget for months, years, whatever. So I also think I agree having the entire ecosystem kind of thinking about how to score better, is really
So
important.
big goals we have here.
Lofty goals. We're
Well,
transforming the ecosystem.
yeah. No problem. So we're going to jump in, but if you come to this page, you can check out, the schedule. You here very quickly. We're gonna jump into the membership portal and run through the schedule that way. But this is as easy as, clicking on this button and checking out. So pretty easy to sign up. And if you're talking internally about either to yourself, like in your own head, or to bosses, like we expect the practical value to be like whenever you sign up, like so this is signups will be open throughout the whole 8-week
Mhm.
program. And basically one of these, like one of the working sessions and all of the templates, tools, resources will be available to you whenever you sign up. And I think that's like the tangible thing that you're paying for. Because if you can come out of this with actually a rebuilt scores in your portal, then that's a huge win.
Mhm.
But like the hard to quantify value, I think, is in the weekly sessions and the expert like feedback, right? To actually get
Mhm.
us, because this does require a lot of mindset changes in terms of why we're doing scoring a different way, why we're not just rebuilding the
Mhm.
old way in the new system. Um, so let's jump into the portal situation. Um, and like, so we're going to run through it. What do you hope like people like glean from us running through it in this membership portal?
I hope that people see how comprehensive the topics are. I hope people see the value in some of the assets that we're creating to accompany them. But mostly, I hope people see how easy it can be to just connect on this one topic. I just mentioned to somebody yesterday, I think sometimes if you're working as a HubSpot admin, whether internally, whether a consultant, um, sometimes you're working, it feels solo. And so, any opportunities I've found to connect with people who are doing the same work as I do, it just makes everything feel much more doable. I get re-energized talking to people in similar positions, and it can just that alone has been a huge difference in my career, connecting with others in my position for me. So.
Yeah, I think like one of the goals is heard about this profoundly. We feel it in Sprocketeer, like, and on LinkedIn, like
Mhm.
you started with, like it could be hard to like find things and like understand where to go or where I did it last time, or like I,
Mhm.
I remember that question somebody said. I gave a really good answer to that question and now I can't remember where it was.
Mhm.
Uh Goal here is to kind of capture all the resources and learnings and insights. We'll have a lot of the LinkedIn lives here as well, but just to consolidate all the resources related to this specific topic. So super intentional. If you truly have urgency to recreate, to like rebuild your score in the new tools, like this should be everything you need, like to be
Yeah.
able to do that.
A friend just said to me last week that, she knows that you and I specifically are creating all this content, and she's like, "It's great content, but it's so much that she sometimes has trouble figuring out, like, what to pay attention to." So I think this specifically is like, if you need to rebuild your score, you don't have to catch every single post. You don't have to catch every morning update to figure out which ones have scoring updates. You'll do a weekly meeting. You'll get the best of the best right there, rather than needing to, figure out where to look. It just happens a little more naturally.
Yeah. And this is super exciting for me because I've been thinking about this for like a year, since Let's Build Media started and we got more people involved. And it was always a thing like, yeah, I know LinkedIn's hard, but I was prioritizing the content and the distribution through the feed and never got to the point where it started to be consolidated, uh, not consolidated, but curated and packaged in a meaningful way. So this is definitely like a huge step in the next phase of bringing all of that great content that has been created by many experts, including yourself, bring it together in a meaningful way so that we can, start being much more intentional outside of LinkedIn, with the value that we hear when people do get a chance to watch and consume the content. But obviously a lot's going on and it can be hard to keep up.
Yeah.
So let's talk about week 1.
Week 1, so that will kick off next week on Wednesday, July 9th, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, Chris. This first session is really just a kickoff, an explanation of what this framework is, the purpose of it, and just a discussion around what your scoring goals are. Because every team is different. You might have a BDR and an SDR team, and there might be different people the lead scoring is sending to each team, and so on. But just starting to kind of understand what your goals are and how the value first scoring methodology fits into those goals and what you should be prioritizing over the next 8 weeks.
Yeah. And if you're unfamiliar with the phrase value first, on this page, you can check out the framework itself. Big old long, like pillar page of everything in there. And I wanted to highlight it just because I'm seeing a lot of AI first and human first, like messaging right now, which really just perpetuates the problem that we're trying to solve here. Because I know that like in scoring, we're going to expect AI to start supporting that in some ways that we're not used to, because AI is better at seeing trends, like when it can see all the context and all the data. So we should want it to speak to what our scoring looks like at some point, but it's never going to be a complete handoff, right? When we talk about AI first and human first, it like just creates this natural comparison competition. I feel that doesn't really solve when at the end of the day, we're trying to get value out of all these different activities. And most of our customers, prospects, buyers, even internal teams like sales versus marketing, like sales just wants a valuable understanding of who they're supposed to reach out to next. Like I doubt they care. They're going to care whether a human came up with a score or an AI came up with a score. Right. It's just like, did this create value for me as a salesperson so that I can create value for the person I'm about to call? Right. So that's a little bit about the concept of value first. And if you want to understand more, you can check out the framework there. So week 2.
So the next really 3 weeks, so there are 3 main pillars to the value first scoring framework. Those are going to be contact fit, company fit obviously for B2B or even B2G organizations. And then that last pillar that we've talked about previously, which I think is probably the most important, is that engagement piece. But week 2, we're going to focus on the contact fit, how to identify in your account which contacts are good prospects, good humans for your sales team, your marketing team to start reaching out to. And what a lot of that's going to go into is what data is in your account, how reliable that is, and which signals from that data are useful for your team.
And that is Thursday, July 17th at 10 a.m. Eastern. I'd love for you to touch on, usually programs like this, at least in my experience, are like, all right, we're picking a day, we're picking a time, and each week, that's when it happens. Why are you choosing to go a different route here?
So this is something when Chris and I first started talking about this program, I was like pretty insistent on like immediately, like before I even had all of the topics picked out. I was like, I don't know when we'll do, I don't know what we're going to talk about each week, but we're going to do it at a different time. And the goal of that is to make sure that it fits in to anyone's schedule. I personally, um, there is the Tuesday admin hug that HubSpot hosts. It's at 11 a.m. Eastern. I have an 11 a.m. Tuesday client meeting. So every week I miss at least the first half, if not the entire thing, because client meeting ends, whatever. I don't want that to be a limitation for anyone. And so that's why it was really important for me to move this around to make sure that it can fit into anyone's schedule. You'll see some of the times are even earlier in the morning, even later at night, also to help people in different time zones get the most value out of all of this.
Yeah, and that's the part I like to think about, because there's so many things that are going on, so many events like hugs of all shapes and sizes, especially admin hugs. Um, the boot camps, when they show up, like they cause a lot of like rescheduling for everybody that joins one of those. So I like the idea, simply because I've run into it too, and we know it with the morning show. Like, people on the West Coast like cannot, like they're not waking up for that, right? But we see a lot of European like engagement on the earlier times versus showing up in the afternoon. You open the door for the West Coast, and even like 5 or 6 Central is when Asia Pacific, Australia is starting to participate, and they've got both of those places. I think are underrated, hubs of HubSpots.
Mhm.
Not only expertise but also audience.
So week 3, this is going to be looking at what the company ICP is. So again, looking at how reliable the data you have on companies is. Obviously, the HubSpot Insights tool functionality enrichment was sunset earlier this year. So now where are you getting data? How much data do you have on these companies, and is that reliable? Those are some of the first questions you want to start asking. And then after that, we'll start asking, okay, based on this set of reliable data that we trust, who in that is in our company ICP fits, ideal customer profile, who fits that for us.
Makes sense. And now your favorite, week 4.
My favorite, week 4. So it's great to know who the people and the companies are. But again, if they don't know who you are, if they've never visited your website, then your sales team just calling them is probably not going to go well most of the time. And this engagement piece is what makes the new scoring tools different in HubSpot and valuable. So this is looking at how to prioritize buying signals. And I also mentioned earlier, like, what are those buckets? Like, who is a high intent? Those might be your hand raisers. Those might be people who visited the pricing page 10 times, whatever that looks like for you. But then there's also some medium and low intent. And what are those signals as well? And what should we be doing with those people in our either marketing or sales process, depending on what your team structure looks like and your bandwidth?
Makes sense. I love this part, like urgency and action, not just activity. That's how you prioritize.
Spoiler alert, I will not be encouraging anyone to add any points based on email opens.
Thank God. Oh man, but they've opened it 30 times. They must be so
worse.
interested.
That's worse.
Oh man. So let me get into the nitty gritty, looks like here.
Yeah. So after the first month, after the first 4 weeks, then yeah. So we have at that point the basis of our scores. So this is where we're going to start to really dig in, start troubleshooting data issues, start enriching our data. Do we want to score based off of specific job titles, but are our job titles not clean or not reliable? If not, then maybe we need to clean those up or enrich them in a reliable way in some way. So it's, I am very big on like work with what you have. But after those first 4 weeks, we've worked with what we have. Now, how can we make that better?
I like it. Now we get to the part where everybody rushes to probably week 0 normally. Like, how can we automate all this stuff that we don't really understand?
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, most teams are using lead scoring, not always, but most teams are using lead scoring for sales enablement, marketing to sales handoff. So, what are those workflows? What are those triggers? At what point are we doing those handoffs? And who gets handed off at what point? That's where some of those like hot and cold leads might come in and things like that. And figuring out what those thresholds are, making sure your teams are aligned.
We need aligned teams. Newsflash. Week 7, assuming we have this alignment and this foundation built out, we can finally make meaningful reporting.
Yeah, so the meaningful reporting for a lot of the teams I work with might look like how many humans are getting passed over to the sales team in a given period of time. Are there people who are just below that threshold? What should or can marketing be doing to kind of further those humans into their journey? Things like that, and making sure that everybody has visibility into what the scores are and how the scores and humans with those scores are progressing.
And then the last week, the week before the sunset, when everybody probably registers for this workshop, but hopefully not. Hopefully, you've seen this coming from a mile away, literally like 6 months away.
Yes.
We've been thinking about it. We've been building foundation, and now we can, start fine tuning stuff instead of just like stumbling over the finish line, maybe.
Yeah. So yeah, just like you said this, and just like the title here, this is going to be the final tune-up, the last-minute questions. HubSpot is continuing to release updates to the scoring tool. There may be changes to the scoring tool in that week that I don't know about right now. So we're just going to be kind of going through any of those last-minute pieces for you and your team.
Makes sense. So for the overall schedule, maybe you can touch on the
So
the workshop.
there's 2-hour working sessions. If you join, you can join the whole 2 hours. You can join at the beginning and the end if you want to just kind of check in at the beginning, check in at the end, or be on the entire time. The first session is at the end of that week 4. So that's after we've covered those 3 pillars of your scoring. And that's where we're going to start using that session to really build out those pillars in your portal based on the data that you have. Then the second working session is scheduled for August 26th. So that is the week before the sunset, and that is really intended to be kind of fine-tuning. If you've added more reliable data, maybe we're changing things up. Maybe you're using that session to build out some of that automation that we talked about, or building some of those reports, but making sure that using those sessions to really build out the components that we're talking about each week. Because personally, going off script, but I hate when I go to a webinar or a training and I get really fired up, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to build this score. It's going to be great. It's going to be amazing. But then I get busy and then I don't build it. And then this, note sits on my desk for months before I finally do anything with it, or it stops being a priority and I just forget about it. And that's why I think these working sessions are important components of the program, because with these working sessions, you have the opportunity to have intentional time to really build out all of these, everything that we're going to be talking about.
Well, I'm glad you went there because I wanted to put you on
I
the.
got a little fired up.
I'm going to keep you on that fiery seat. And it's like, why should people pay for this?
Why should people pay for this? I think there is, again, so much value in the peer and collaborative environment. I'm a part of a few mastermind groups myself. And to be honest, when the first one I signed up for, I was so stressed out about. I was like, what did I just do? But when you actually are attending a good mastermind group, you're getting value not only from the structured weekly topics, but also some of that peer feedback. People are going to bring questions that you might not have even thought about, that then we can touch on, we can elaborate on and build on from there. And then most of all, I really do think those 2-hour working sessions, you could truly build your scores and build the system supporting your scores in those working sessions. And you have the support, somewhere to go when you're like, hey, I'm trying to add an and criteria here, but I can't do it. I don't understand what's happening. Just pop in and say, hey, what's the deal? Why can't I say and here? And I'll say, hello, you might need to build a list for that. Or maybe that will be something that's updated by the time we get there. I don't know. But but there's a lot of value in all of that.
Yeah. I think this statement right here, like, you won't be building in a vacuum, right? This is not just like another academy lesson that you go and watch and then you're supposed to build everything yourself. This is not random questions on the community or in Sprocketeer that, Casey's probably already answered 10 times. It's a real community, like peer-led effort, which for me is the best place to be when building in HubSpot, because we all know there's about 10 different ways to do just about everything. And even though these are new tools, like the way you can speed up the process, and even like 10 people all trying one way, and you immediately get to the one way, that, is, I don't want to say best practice, but you'll have choices by seeing what everybody else is doing, which one is going to work, for your organization the best without having to go through all the trial and error, right? And that trial and error is what I've seen really hold people back, because when you put the work in and it's not broken, but it's also not working either, like it's easy to settle. And then that's when we start to see the gaps between marketing and sales. And we want to avoid that at all costs, because you are paying for HubSpot and they are trying their best to give you like state-of-the-art technology to do this stuff better. And when you can just knock it out in 1-2 hour session, like, because not to mention, this is focused on lead scoring, but basically the mindset shift as you do this will have an impact outside of building out the lead scoring tools. Like, that's probably not going to be obvious to most, but when you start to focus on the weekly sessions of showing up regularly to talk about these things in a more meaningful way, you start to engage with experts. There's personal career things that happen, just other opportunities to grow yourself, inside and outside of your organization, just start to show up, right? So a lot of value. And um, like, what would this like? Since I've never done it, I'm not clear on like how much it costs to like have somebody else build out a lead score system for you.
Mhm.
What does that usually look like?
So, hiring a contractor to build your lead scoring for you, if I was bidding that for a client, um, eh, to be honest, I part of what goes into that is understanding your business. So there is a really high cost to that. Um, I easily will quote people 5,000 or more. I've gotten ghosted a lot, to be honest. But the reason for that is I could build your score for less than that if I just threw a bunch of, for lack of a better term, trash into your scoring properties. Um, but that's not the point of this. The point is the building this in a way that makes sense to your business, and I'm not willing to just build a bad score, for the sake of checking that box. So for me, it's really important that piece of understanding comes in, and that's why I do find it really valuable when someone on the team, um, ideally when you're having sales and marketing building these scores together truly, um, that ends up being a much more powerful and useful score.
To say the least. Uh, so how long would it take to just say, okay, this is the old way. We're going to put that into the new scoring system.
Um, I did that one time on a live in 30 minutes.
Right. So if you find somebody that is going to do it for you, let's say for low cost, like hundreds of dollars, that's what they're doing. Like, and it's not going to be valuable for you. The outcomes, this is where we get to the why. Like, are you just looking for scores to get done and like lead lists to be built? Or are you looking to actually drive like meaningful prioritization, for the sales team or any other team in the business? I mean, leaders are the ones that ask for this the most, in my
Mhm,
opinion. And it's because
mhm,
they want to know what kind of leads are being generated and are all the money that we're spending on marketing and prospecting from sales, is that working? So creating visibility for them, right? And so if you're running up against budget concerns, which by the way, you should not, it's $497, like first of all, uh, like doing this the right way, like this is, I can't, I know there's no more valuable way to get there than this program. Because when you try to farm this out and it gets done the right way, like Casey mentions, that requires business understanding and process understanding and doing the hard work of bringing sales and marketing teams together in the same room, talking about a topic that almost for sure has baggage already.
mhm,
Like you never get to go into these conversations and just assume that this is the first time they're talking about it,
mhm,
right? And all that takes work. I'll say like we're always willing to do that work, but so much of these kinds of mastermind scenarios, you pick up language that other people use to get these things done inside of an organization. So there's so many side benefits to just being around other people doing the same thing, going through the same challenges, solving the same problems. All of that is really hard to to quantify, but it's like 10x, 100x more than just asking somebody, "Hey, we're running out of time on the lead scoring properties. Can you just move it over?"
mhm.
Right? especially when you could do that. It takes you 30 minutes, like, to do it yourself. Like, if you're going to go
Mhm.
that route, go that route. Don't pay for it. Right.
Mhm. Yeah, if you're doing that, I'll send you the video. DM me. I'll send you the video of me doing it in 30 minutes, and you can follow along with that, and you can do that. Um, and I'm sure you could find someone that will do that for you for $500 or less. But then when your sales team's complaining because no one's responding to their emails and you're sending every CMO that downloaded a white paper off of LinkedIn directly to the sales team and telling them, call them, email them, text them, and for some reason they keep getting ghosted. There's not for some reason. Um, it's
Plus
for
80 points. They downloaded the thing that we wanted them to download. They're clearly in buying mode.
Mhm.
We must call them immediately. I see you, Oracle.
My friend just told me the other day, she said she downloaded a white paper from someone, maybe Active Campaign, downloaded a white paper. They called her cell phone a couple minutes later. She was,
Yeah.
she immediately, like, she felt harassed. Like,
Yeah. My first experience of that was, and we're sharing these stories. We don't want this to be you.
Mhm,
Like, it shouldn't have to be you. Like, one good story, one bad story. The good story. When I met HubSpot in 2017, I had been going through an onboarding with Marketo,
mhm,
and it wasn't going well.
mhm,
And I just signed a contract for like 10K for the year. No business doing that, by the way, because it was just way too much software for the 10-person organization and the 1-person marketing team that I was. But I did it because I was in the Salesforce, ecosystem, and that was the marketing I found, and some content I appreciated. But then when I signed up, wasn't going well. 15 days in, I sign up for the academy, right, of HubSpot, and I start to learn about marketing automation and all these things. Um, uh, the first 30 days keeps going poorly. On day 27, I, after having done that in HubSpot and consumed content, then I get to the pricing page, and that's when I get the call,
mhm,
right? 7 minutes later. I have intent at that
mhm,
point, right? Fast forward to 2023, I'm becoming a consultant. I need to learn more about ERPs, and I keep seeing these checklists of 151 KPIs for all CFOs like need to care about from
mhm.
NetSuite, and I download it, and like the Austin phone numbers are like burned in my brain because it's like guaranteed calls. And in that moment, I was like, oh, this is what people are talking about.
Mhm.
This is where all these bad practices come from, because it's like clockwork with almost all of their downloadable stuff, from NetSuite and Oracle. And you can just feel it in the background. There's some lead scoring system. There's some kind of trigger that's like, all right, this is my list today. Oh,
Mhm.
uh, especially when they don't even know what you downloaded. Like, ugh,
It's pretty
man.
bad.
So yeah, don't be that guy. Don't be that girl. Put your sales team in a better position.
Mm. I mean, August 31st, it's 2 months away. This is July 1st. August 31st is 2 months away. You have to switch from if you were using the scoring properties, you have to switch in 2 months. Um, and yeah, you can just build exactly what you have in the new scoring, but you're gonna leave with exactly what you have. And if your sales team is complaining that the leads aren't qualified, if your marketing team keeps saying, let's just lower the score 10 points so we can get more MQLs this month, if you're hearing that, then you're not changing anything. Um, you have right now you have an opportunity to change something, um, and build better, not just build the same.
And Casey is here to help you with that. But this is exactly the kind of transformation that we're trying to help with at Value First. We know it's hard, change is hard, but AI is here whether you want it to be or not, and it's causing a lot of change. And I know it feels like boiling the ocean. You don't have any other options right now. So we're trying to make that as easy as possible. And this is one of those things that makes it hard. We have lead KPIs, we have scoring mechanisms, we have sales goals. None of these things are aligned, largely because of the way that the old lead scoring tools are set up right now, right? So thankfully, HubSpot is creating a better path to take with the new scoring tools, and it's going to be fun to see a bunch of people like start doing lead scoring better. Like, if I'm being honest. So we will drop the registration link in the chat. Thanks to Casey. Thanks to everyone joining us. And like I said, I'm looking forward to see how this creates, value for the people that choose to dive in. Anything you want to leave the good people with, Casey?
I look forward to rebuilding your scoring better. So
There you go. So until we see you on Wednesday, July 9th at 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Central for the kickoff session. Be sure to sign up for that. And have a great, holiday week. In the meantime, thanks so much, Casey.
have a good one.